Welcome to the Creative Entrepreneur Show. What do we have this week, Bryon?
Hey Rosh, happy to be here. We are two creative guys talking AI, and this week, what I want to talk about, the top three ways that creative entrepreneurs can use Canvas. And I
Nice.
know we scratched the surface on Canvas a couple weeks ago. For the audience that don't know what this is, Chat GPT just released a new option, little drag down tab to use GPT for Omni with Canvas. So I'm going
Good.
to go, I want to get into, exactly a bit more of what that is and what it differentiates and really good ways for creatives to
I,
use it.
I like it when you dig in deep on these things.
Yes, yeah, we get our hands dirty. Why? Because we are real people here. Let's remind the audience that this is not an AI generated podcast. We are true organic creatures. And then, all right, you've mentioned this a bunch with your simple test that you use to check, text to video.
Yeah,
And I want to give some advice to our audience of how to really do testing across the AIs because I feel like every week we're on the show and there's a new AI that does this specific thing better, or
right.
there's, so you need to have your kind of baseline tests of how to be able to see which one's best for you for your specific test. So I want to get into some advice on that. And most importantly, I want to know what you have going on today. What's going on?
Well, I don't know about most important, but we do have some good stuff. Swarm is out. That's new from OpenAI. And I also want to talk about some of the updates for one of our favorite game changers, and that's Google Notebook, as well as a similar tool that you may not be as familiar with and what that does. So it's gonna be a good, insightful show.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, last time we talked about Notebook, what about a month ago? I mean, I still think we're picking our jaws up off the floor, so I'm excited to see what updates and different things are going
Yeah,
on. All right, very good. So yeah, Canvas. What is Chat GPT Canvas? So it's a new direction that Chat GPT gave to us as a new way to kind of use its platform. And I'm gonna look, to my side screen for us here on YouTube watching because I've got it open. And what's really cool about this is it gives us on the left side of the screen our usual prompt back and forth that we have going on with GPT. But then on the right side of the screen, it shows you the document or the presentation or the anything that you're working on. And it really what this does is it really helps create create responses that aren't just text. It's
yeah.
able to actually create like a full-on presentation with visual explanations and diagrams and graphs. And this is really, really cool for brainstorming and for being able to get your thoughts into a program and have that program help you organize your thoughts. And what's really cool about it, Rosh, and I'm excited for when we get to work in the future. And but you're able to collaborate with people on this, so
Yeah,
you
isn't
can
that
actually
great?
share it. So have you done any of that yet? Collaborated any Canvas?
No, I have not. And I think it's a great tool in many different ways. I enjoy coding. I don't, for some reason, I've not got into coding with it as much as I thought I would. I was so excited because it is a better presentation for code,
Yes.
but I
Yep.
still kind of doing it old school, copy and pasting
Okay.
from this straight up Chat GPT.
Well, you'll get there. Don't beat yourself
I'll
up.
catch up to you, Bryon.
But what's great about this too is you can see your previous iterations.
Yeah,
So, as the conversation goes, you can say, you know what, hey, I thought we were on to something 3 ideas ago. So let's peel this back a little bit. But
right.
yeah, it allows for some good, collaborative work. It allows for some better communication. And we've talked about different ways to try to promote our show and get it out there. And maybe we should get a canvas started about collaborating on some newsletters and some content and stuff that we're working so that that way we can keep collaborating to get this the work out there. But you're getting the same kind of answers back from GPT, based on the prompts that you're giving it. And another thing that's really cool is this document that you're working on. It's kind of like it's a live document, like a Google
Yeah, you
Doc.
can edit. I mean, you can
Yeah,
edit with, I mean, that's why I'm surprised I haven't been doing more um,
right.
coding with it, but great for writing. Great for writing.
Very, very good for writing. And yeah, the last point I really wanted to bring up is, my wife, she's been a kind of a closet writer, is what I call her. She's been writing for decades. And, I think outside of her, maybe two people have read it, but she's got the, grand plans of, of writing, these full novels, these full series of novels.
Hmm.
And and she said to me, 5 or 6 years ago, she's just like, I wish I could design a program that I could help me storyboard in the way that I
Yeah.
want to storyboard. And if you think, like think like fantasy novels or like Tolkien, things in that direction where very, very complex worlds with a full storyboard, everything going on. And you know what? I think Chat GPT Canvas is it.
Nice.
I think that this program is the one that, a writer can really, really use to help really, really flesh out their ideas and get creative in a different kind of way. And they can design the answers to be in a way that works for their brain.
Yeah,
So
just again, knowing about you, and actually, here's a kind of a side note that I hadn't thought about. I remember I had talked about Nate last week, and he had another one the other day. I think we need to have this guy on the show, but I'll reach out at some point. It turns out he is in Seattle. Anyway, he said, do this one thing. Go to Chat GPT and ask it what it knows about you.
I've seen that coming up a lot on my Facebook groups this week.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, and I think he pushed that, and it was interesting. I did that. It was very interesting. But the point being is that it gets to know you,
Yeah.
and so to your point about writing the book, you can do exactly that, or just say, here's give me 10 prompts to work off of based off
Mhm.
of my style of writing for
Right.
this type of book, and then you can start writing underneath that prompt, and then you can collaborate with the AI to maybe improve it, improve spelling, but you can just go to town and not worry about spelling. And let me assure you, that increases the speed of the writing process
Right.
when you're not going back and forth saying, "Oh, I think I misspelled a word," and you spend 5 minutes trying to really do it right when it's just going to be corrected anyway.
I have been astounded by GPT's ability to be able to take my poorly worded, poorly spelled prompts and just not even make fun of me. I was expecting, it to, kick back and be like, okay. But it
Not
really it
impressive,
understands.
human.
Yeah. As long as you're 95% in the ballpark, it gets you there. So but yeah, I'm really impressed by it. And but yeah, just I implore our audience, next time you open it up to, start a canvas and start whether it's a marketing plan or it's a song or maybe an album, a series of songs that you want to get a bigger picture, but use this for creativity, for brainstorming. And then, like you said, we can edit on the document that's coming up. So, before you would get a prompt, you'd have to copy paste it and then put it into, a Word doc or whatever, and then make your edits and everything. Whereas now you've got a live document that you're able to feed and get iterations from and collaborate on. So
Right.
very, very cool. This is a kind of changed the way that teams really work, especially creative teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be, everything that Chat GPT and, a
A
lot of these
quick
AIs.
question. And this is just something I don't know. How do you collaborate? I mean, do you send a link to that?
You can
Is
link.
there
Yeah,
a
you
way
can. You
to
actually, when you get the document on the side, and it's even got a little logo that looks like a Word document on there.
yeah.
But then yeah, you can actually go and share it. Where is it on there? But yeah, I will. I'll get one going today, and we'll follow up with our audience next week what it's like to collaborate on one.
Yeah,
I
that'd
think
be
that'd be
nice
cool.
because I've not done that, and I think that is a tremendously good feature.
Right. All right, very good. Well, I want to throw it back your way. And what's going on with Swarm?
So Swarm is a new API that's been put out by it's actually you have to go to GitHub to work with it. If you're familiar with GitHub, GitHub is where a lot of programmers, people, and even open source companies are. Maybe a Google will share open source information. GitHub is a kind of a coder's paradise. Especially before the AIs the way they are now, if you wanted to find some code, at least get you started in a specific direction, you go to GitHub and
Okay.
you would find that code and you'd store your code there and things like that, or share the code if you wanted to with public. Well, anyway, so that's where Swarm is available right now with OpenAI. But what it is, it's ultimately an agent that allows you to connect with other AIs. So you can say, for example, this is one they use quite a bit, and I think is a great one. You can create an agent, and an agent is kind of a specialty GPT or a large language model application. Say, so it could be your travel agent, and it will connect to other AIs to help perform tasks. Right now, if you just asked, which you've done, which I've done, um, the AIs to, hey, what's a um, good plan for my trip to Florida? And then it could lay out everything and give you information and so forth. Well, this would say, okay, here it is, and we'll connect you. Here are the best prices for the plane, and here's, let's buy you tickets for this museum here. And but each one of those AIs, sometimes they're specialty. They don't need to be large language models. They're very specific and have a very specific task that they do much, much better.
Yeah.
So anyway, so any thoughts about what you could use with that? I mean, have you seen anything like that, or a situation where you think that would be helpful?
I mean, there's been multiple projects I've been working on where it's like, I wish I had some sort of bridge to go between the different AIs that I was using. And I think that's that next level of AI intelligence that's coming, that, I think AI agent is going to be a big term and a big deal coming up, because
Yeah,
people, now that they're realizing that there's all these programs that can do the right things with the right prompts, they're like, okay, let's take that a step higher and be like, let's bridge the gap between the different ones to truly get to our end game. But to be able to have an AI agent that's actually smart enough to determine which AIs to use,
yeah.
is that what you're seeing with Swarm that it's doing?
Yeah, well, you can connect it. Maybe you have your agent. Maybe there are three or four or five different ones that it can connect into directly. Again, large language models aren't. Yes, they've been a huge leap forward in terms of the interaction with people.
Mhm.
But as far as being the best AI for every single task, absolutely not. And so now being able to connect your agent to very specific ones, it may not go wandering around to find unless there's a very large down the road place, where you can go and connect, which very well may be the case. Maybe here are all the other models that you can use that have nothing to do with the large language models, but you can connect to maybe for a fee, or so, because obviously people have to run those models too. And so if you are within a specific industry, I'm sure there are other APIs and other models that you can use and connect to. So yeah, so that's where certainly where it's going. And I think you're absolutely right. 2025, you're going to hear the word agent quite a bit.
Yeah, and just being able to have that information to be able to use these tools all across the board and which ones work best. And, these agents are going to eventually be testing which AIs work best for each direction. And, that kind of lends in really well into, my next topic of how to, I mean, before I don't mean to cut you off on your topic there, if you had
No, no,
anything else on that
I'm
you wanted
done.
to touch
I'm
on.
good.
Okay, cool. So, but yeah, you know, there's all these different options for the different features that we want to use AI for. So say, in social media creation and in writing, there's, the three that are, pretty prominent right now are Chat GPT, Gemini, and Meta AI.
Mhm.
And in terms of how they write, and we actually did a little experiment this week. I'll touch on that in a moment. But say, in the world of images, there's Dolly, Gemini, Midjourney. There's all these different ones, and we've talked before about how we can tell kind of which one is using which
Yeah,
technology is being used based on how the image looks.
yeah.
But then also, for video stuff, there's Runway and Video. Synthesia, I think that's how it's said,
Mm.
is one of the more popular ones. I've been seeing some really impressive stuff on that. So, there's all these options for people, and you got to figure out what works best for you. And one of the best ways to do this is very much back to the example you bring up a lot of, for the video one, of having a tiger or a cat of some sort, jungle cat running through a
Yeah.
field. And it's a very scientific method approach to how you are going to use these different tools, by starting with, by eliminating some of the variables of the actual prompt. So say, for example, this past week, my wife, she's been a bigger fan. She's my business partner in our social media company, and she's been much of a bigger fan of Gemini than Chat GPT.
Hmm.
And there's a an author that she's been reading a lot lately, of a few different books that she really, really likes her reading style. All right, so there's an author that my wife really likes, and so she was like, I wonder if some of our social media content could be made and written, a little bit more in her style. And sure enough, Gemini did it a little bit, And then she wanted it to change it completely to, all right, now write like you're talking, like you're an old fantasy writer like Tolkien, and rewrite it completely. And Gemini only went in and just changed a few words here or there,
Mm,
and really was not impressive at all. A lot of the writing was, kind of basic based off the prompt. And then she went on over to GPT Omni and gave it that same prompt, and all of a sudden noticed the writing style was much more like the first example. And then when she asked it to no, redo it in this different one, it rewrote it completely from the
sure.
ground up. So it put in the work
Yeah.
instead of where Gemini kind of got a little bit lazy. Now, might be a difference of the fact that we pay for GPT right now and don't pay for Gemini. But it was kind of eye opening of how well GPT did versus Gemini. And then I said, all right, when she told me that, I said, all right, now go try Meta AI and see how it does.
Yeah. Try,
And it was,
I would say try Claude too. Claude's got to get into that mix because it's really quite often where I will go when I'm
yeah.
trying to seriously create good writing text content.
Now, all right. So, question back for you with Claude: are you finding more like technical writing or creative writing?
Yes. I mean, maybe
Oh,
not as much technical. I don't do as much tech. Well, I guess I do a little bit of everything, but I really do like it. And they are adding a lot of great features, and they seem to be ahead of the game. We're talking about Canvas, but they already did that.
okay.
Now Canvas is
Yeah.
better, but they had theirs 4 months ago, which is called Artifacts. So I mean, so they tend to be ahead of the game. They have a few new features that I read and can't think of at the moment that are coming out really soon, which will probably be on my list coming soon. So we'll have a more Claude conversation.
Yeah, actually, I feel like that's one of the directions that I've given almost no attention because I've gone to Perplexity, I've gone to ChatGPT, but Claude to me has been completely so. All right, well, I will accept that as a challenge for next week, and I will come
Yeah,
back with my feedback and thoughts on Claude. So that's great. But yeah, when you give the same very specific prompts to each of these programs, you're able to really see what separates them apart. And then also you want to compare how they do on their iterations. So when you're challenging them to, give more, and I've given that as a reply to GPT before a few times, just, hey, give me more information, make this better. And
yeah,
without telling, specifically how, but it'll take the time. And, in some instances, it'll truly make things better. There are some other things to factor in, depending on, the speed of how quickly your prompts come back to you versus the quality. Then there's the cost that's to factor in. Like I mentioned before, we're paying for GPT, but not paying for Gemini. Um, then there's also whatever AI you're working with, its ability to be multimodal, to be able to then, upload a document and work with it and see how it
hmm
does. So, I've actually got a spreadsheet that I use now as a test spreadsheet just to say hey, give me some data from this and, try to extrapolate data from a spreadsheet of different ones. Do you have any
yeah.
sort of
It is important to make sure that you're actually reading the information and all the information, and not just like the first line or something like that. Because I've gotten
right?
caught in a bad situation. Like, wow, that's a really interesting response. Oh, yeah, no, that's completely wrong. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, reading it back and seeing what's going on, but you want to really make sure that you're getting the answer that you want in the direction you want, and that's where you keep your goal in mind of, hey, what's my end game at this? Is this something for a client? Is this something for my own personal use? To be able to then, kind of decide. And then one of the last, things to factor in on this is if there's any bias versus, each different AI,
right,
because we definitely noticed a difference in Meta AI's writing, and because it's getting a lot of its information just from the Meta, Instagram, Facebook
right.
kind of world, and so you've got to factor in how the actual AI brains are thinking when choosing which AI is best. So some people are going to be fine with just using ChatGPT. It's going to do 95% of what you need to do, but when you really sometimes when you hit limitations with it and you're like, this should be giving me a better answer, then maybe you want to hop over to Claude or hop over to Gemini or try something different and see if maybe you've kind of hit a roadblock in one.
hmm
Have you hit any roadblocks or felt like, hey, I'm not getting the answer here where what I
Oh
need
yeah,
and go somewhere else?
absolutely. And I find that even as we've mentioned before, just starting over, start fresh with a new page, you can do that. And if you're still not getting what you want, yeah, go to another AI, especially when I'm coding. I will find myself running in circles and realizing, I just need to kind of start the question over. I did that this morning. I mean, I spent an hour going in circles, was not working.
Hmm.
And the code to fix it was getting longer and longer and longer. And I just started over, said, no, take this code, do this with it, do that. And it was half the size of my last solution, and it worked that time. So,
Yeah.
and it took 3 minutes. So sometimes you really do have to do that. And going to another AI is a great solution.
Right. Yeah, because you're not going to bring any of your chat history or bias that it might already have built
Right.
into it. You're getting new
That's an
conversation going.
excellent point. Excellent point.
Right. Yeah. So all right. Well, we already know Google Notebook is amazing. What does it have going on this week, Rosh?
So they have plans to improve it. They've already released a few things, controls. There's a hack right now that people have been getting into because you know when I uploaded that 18-page PDF and I did a few different versions of the podcast because they would pull out different things to talk about. It wouldn't talk about everything in the 18 pages, and so I would take pieces and parts, especially in the beginning. I didn't like the beginning of it. And another one had a better initial analysis, and I would cut and paste and so forth. And so there's been a hack that a lot of people have been using. It's like just take little pieces of data or information. So if I wanted to really do that right, I would have just gone through that PDF and taken maybe 10 paragraphs that I really wanted them to focus on and give instructions within that document to the hosts. And then they would go on. So that's what they were doing. Well, they have upgraded it so you can now do it from the system, and you can
Okay.
give the hosts instructions on how to approach and what to focus on. And so that's a
Great.
big, right, straight from Notebook. Another interesting thing they've done is they've added a business version, or kind of a business version, coming through soon. It doesn't show a lot of new stuff, but maybe there'll be some collaboration elements like we've talked about and so forth. So have you played any more with Notebook?
No, but one of our clients that we have in common that does the insurance adjusting, I know that they have quite a few PDF notebooks about what it is overall that they do.
Mhm.
So that's going to be one of the next projects that I try to do to incorporate. But yeah, I'm glad that you can give the host some sort of direction. I'm really looking forward to when they can bring in some new or different voices into it.
Yeah.
Because right now, it's very much in a beta stage, but it's astonishing what they're able to do. I mean, even the little phrases of different, types of language that they're using, and, the way they kind of interrupt or go back and forth. It sounds so natural that if you're
Yeah.
not trained to it, you're not going to know. That's why I keep reminding our audience that we're real people here.
We're people. We're
Mis-
people. Can't you
Mistakes and
tell?
all. Yeah, exactly.
Well, to come, they're going to have personas for the AI hosts,
Yeah.
and
Mr.
and I
T. Oh, I want Mr. T. Oh, so
yes.
bad.
And you can also control the length of the podcast, which
Okay.
is a nice transition to a place you can already do that. That is at Illuminate Google. So that's within the labs, and you can you just type in Illuminate Google and you'll find it. And it's really the same type of thing. And except it's limited to books and select websites, but they have a large, let's say you want a podcast on the Lord of the Flies. I mentioned that one because that was one I briefly saw when I was looking through them. And so if you are, say, a college student who really learns by listening like that to a podcast, well, you can look and
Wow.
find
Yeah.
some of those books or all the different resources that are within Illuminate and have a podcast made. Now, for the output, you can create a discussion, and this is what's probably coming to Notebook. You can say, create a discussion tailored for, and then you can type in who it's tailored for with say, you can say a short, medium, long duration, and the tone should be, and you could say technical or professional or semi-professional.
Hmm.
And you can do that right now on Illuminate. So that's coming to Notebook. So if you want to get a hint of what is coming to Notebook, I try to it says in there, hey, put the link to your PDF. So I did, and said, no, here are the 6 sites it'll work off of. So that you can't put your own in right now,
Okay.
or something from another location other than the few approved sites. But head on over to those websites and see what's available. There's probably a lot available there, and you can get the link to those PDFs.
I love your perspective on people with different learning styles.
Yeah.
I think the podcast explosion of the last decade or so has really, it speaks to the fact that a lot of people, if they're traveling to the car, they're going to the gym, they're doing something. Not everybody wants to listen to the same music we liked when we were, 20 years old. And to be able to learn and do, I read it or see it all the time on social media where they're like, replace doom scrolling with micro learning.
Yeah,
And
right.
but
I've seen those. Yeah.
and that but it's a good way to think about ways to continue to keep your brain sharp. And if there's a topic that you don't want to sit down and read a textbook on, but you could take a lot away from two people having a genuine conversation about it, you can learn anything in that
Yeah,
kind of way. That's great.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good
Yeah.
show.
Very good.
So
Very good. Awesome. Well, we've been getting a few inquiries that it's on me. I haven't replied. So if you guys are listening, I'll get back to you, I promise. But I know there's been a couple really good people that have hit us up that are doing some really cool things in the world of AI.
yeah,
So whether I don't think it'll be next week, but maybe the week after, we'll try to get a guest in here. And if anybody else who's listening, you have any questions or anything, pop on over to creativeentrepreneurshow.com. Please like and follow us, subscribe on YouTube so that way you can see our YouTube, our handsome faces here. And yeah, send us any messages if there's any topics you want covered. And, we're happy to chat about it.
awesome. Once again, great
Just, yeah.
show with two creative guys talking AI. Talk to you next week.